I'm going to do something really, really stupid tonight. I think I'm going to actually agree with Trump. So for several days now, I've been talking about what's going on with the number of cases that we are seeing in states like Florida, Texas, Arizona, California, even South Carolina. All of these states that are seeing this quick, rapid spike back up in cases of coronavirus, positive coronavirus cases. And I have talked about how at some point we're going to hit that trending line where we generally start to see death in hospital. It usually is somewhere between 2 to 3 to 4 weeks, somewhere there. I think the average is 18 to 23 days is where cases end up in the ICU, and then that patient ultimately ends up expiring. We're at that point now. So when you look at the cases in the United States, and I have a graph here. So when you look at the cases in the United States, this is our total cases. And you can see how they are climbing rapidly. This is the daily new cases right here. So, the initial spike up, and I've talked about this before, this is mostly in Washington and New York and then California. And we spiked up very quickly where we got up to 34,000 cases a day. Then we leveled off. Most of the country started doing the right thing. We started kind of, wearing masks in some states, and some states were better than others. We closed down restaurants and bars, and we closed down shopping malls, and kids went home from school, and we saw this steady decline for weeks and weeks and weeks. And we got down to about the lowest you're seeing right here, I think, is like this 18,000 cases, almost 19,000 cases a day. There was another 18,000 case here. So this one right here, this is May 11th. This next low point right here is June 7th. Now, the beginning of June is when Florida and Texas and those states were like, we're opening it right back up. Let's go right back. Bars, restaurants open. Nobody's wearing masks. And then we start seeing this. We start seeing this rapid increase in cases right away. Now, I can tell you this. So if we look right here, this is New York. So this is New York coronavirus testing positive. This is our daily numbers. New positives. We are not going up. Country is going up. New York is not going up. We have stayed fairly flat through all of June. Now this is best case scenario. This is 1-to-1 spread, or a little bit less than 1-to-1 spread. As you can see, our daily cases 683, daily cases 588. So we're less than a 1-to-1 spread, which is ideal. Even in the worst case scenario, a 1.2% spread where you're slowly rising in cases, but you're not overwhelming anything, that is still acceptable. But here in New York, we're doing really, really well. Again, you compare that with the country, starting at the beginning of June. Here we are, June 1st, 22,000, and then bam, 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 bam. They just keep going up. So what we're seeing is that in states that did not have mask laws, states that open restaurants right back up, almost to full capacity. States like Florida that have amusement parks open. States that have beaches. States that are super hot and people are forced to go indoors and be around air conditioning. We're seeing this daily number of cases rise quite rapidly. This is the number of active cases right here. This is active cases. You can see there was a slight decline here where people got better faster than we were getting new cases, and now we have slowly risen up again. Current active cases here in the United States. Here's what I want to talk about right here. Look at this number. This is your total deaths in the United States. We look at it as linear. We've had a slow, steady climb, but this is your daily. So you can see it's not climbing very quickly. This right here is even more telling. Let me shut these off here. These are your daily deaths here, and this is right here. This is on the nation, daily deaths that occur, that are reported, that are related to coronavirus. So let's look at this again. These are your daily deaths. Now, in the beginning, they were really, really high, and then they have slowly trended down. Total cases trending up, death trending down. Now, the argument that I have made for the last several days is that we're going to know what we have going on based on that 3-week mark. That 3, even 4, even if you're being really conservative with us, we're looking at that 4-week mark, 3 to 4 week mark of when cases start to rise rapidly to when deaths should also start to rise rapidly. These cases started to rise. Where is the first spike? Right here on June 16th. You extrapolate that out 3 weeks, you're now where we are. You're a week into July. You're not seeing that yet. You're just not seeing it yet. So what does that tell you? Now, before I say anything else here, because I'm going to talk about some information that may be controversial, that may also imply knowledge that I don't have. I am not an epidemiologist. I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination. I am a massage therapist, so I do work in a healthcare field. But let's look at these numbers again. Rising up, the trending is all right there. Let's look at a 7-day average. 7-day average is that blue line is continuing to trend up. It's actually leveling off a little bit too, which is another good sign. Let's go down here to your daily deaths. Let's look at the 7-day average. It's going down. Also, still trending down. It's not going up. So why could that be? What could be the possible reason why this is happening? Now this, again, what I'm about to say is only my opinion. I would make the argument that 2 things are happening. One is that the initial way that we were treating COVID-19 in hospitals was either overly aggressive or unreliable. Now, certainly not the fault of our medical industry, beyond the fact that they didn't know what they were dealing with. It was a brand new virus taking the world by storm. They were throwing everything they had at it. Some things worked, some things didn't work, and they had to do the best that they can with what they had. But what they were doing was they were intubating people. And I think I believe, as I know other people also believe, that there's a possibility that they were intubating people too quickly. That people that didn't necessarily need to be intubated were being intubated. Now, intubation, for those that don't know, even after all this has been going on for this long, intubation is where they take a hose with oxygen and they force it into your lungs and pump oxygen into your lungs to force your body to take in more oxygen, because whether your brachial tubes or the alveoli in your lungs, whether they're collapsed or mucus filled or whatever the case may be, if there's damage in that area, they can force oxygen in there. The death rate, statistically, over time, the death rate, not just with COVID, but in general, when you are intubated, is about 80% of people that are intubated die. So when we look at this average right here, very aggressive, lots of intubation, lots of death. Now we're doing things with vitamin C, with steroids, with other drug use that is showing much more success rates throughout the world, even here in the United States. So the other possibility is that there are possible, I don't have this information, this is just my guess, is that there are several strains at this point of COVID that are moving around. A virus, historically, its most dangerous form of any virus will kill off its host. And if it kills off its host and it does not spread that virus to other people, then eventually that strain will die out because it's too powerful. And then it'll mutate. Viruses are always mutated. And then what you end up getting is less dangerous, less deadly forms of the virus, and they don't kill their hosts. And so they spread more widely. More people get access to it. More people will come down with that virus, and it's allowed to spread to more and more people without killing its hosts. That could very possibly be what's going on with this low death rate. And wouldn't that be interesting if that's exactly what we're seeing, is that on the United States here, we have a less deadly form of the virus, and even though more people are catching the virus, less people are dying. Now, before I go any further, because I really am going down a rabbit hole here, I will say that this does not mean that we stop wearing masks. This does not mean that we need to be in amusement parks or on cruise ships. This does not mean that we need to be packing restaurants and bars. This does not mean that we need to be shopping like it's Christmas at the malls. It also does not mean that we need to be opening up that we need to be opening up our economy. Here's your president today. Schools must open in the fall. Now, I don't think this is necessary. I don't think that kids should also, I don't think that they should be doing distance learning only. I know my kids both struggled with the online learning at second half of the school year. It was very hard for both of them. But I also don't think that we need to be forcing kids into schools. The southern states right now that are battling this epidemic the worst, Florida, Texas, Arizona, all these schools, they open in a few weeks. A lot of them open in August. These states are not ready to put these kids back into school in a regular classroom environment. Now, I've heard a lot of rumors that what they're looking at for a lot of these schools is day on, day off, alternating days, turning extra spaces in the schools into classrooms so that they can spread the children out and socially distance. I'm all for that. But when President Cheeto is out there hollering that we need to open the schools up, he doesn't mean socially distance. He does not mean every other classes. He means get them in classes. Let's return to normal, because he's looking at the people that are complaining about their kids not being in school and they have to work and whatever the case may be. I mean, it's just gross. I mean, I don't understand why he feels the need to opine on these things that don't make any sense at all. You know, and then here's the other thing. We have the president here. Let me rewind this. This is a rally today by one of our congressional leaders. Look at all the people in that crowd. I don't know if you can see. I'm just going to leave this on loop here for a second. I don't know if you can see how many people in that crowd are not wearing masks. That is not socially distancing. There are no, I would say, just a quick look here, throw a number up, 5%. 5% of the people in that crowd are wearing masks. These are his people. These are the deniers that think that this is no big deal. They still think it's just the flu. They still think that they're invincible. They still think this is why we're going to struggle to get back to where we need to be. This is why the world's coronavirus cases, with less than 50% of the world's population, we have 25% of the cases. I don't understand why people can't do the right thing. It's selfishness. It's childishness. It's lack of education. It's following this confirmation bias of I'm going to believe the people that say the things that I want to believe. And in this case, our president is saying what these people want to hear. I mean, look at again. Here, come back to this. Look at all those red hats. Look at all those red hats in that crowd. It is thoroughly disgusting. Thoroughly disgusting what we've gotten to in this world. And I am utterly just losing faith in the people of this country to make a smart decision when November comes. But hopefully remember this. So I will say one thing that Donald Trump has been saying is that the death rate plunges. It's right here. Death rate plunges from peak in the U.S., a tenfold decrease in mortality. The Washington Times, Valerie Richardson, we have the lowest mortality rate in the world. Fake news, blah, blah, him and his fake news bullshit. Listen, like I started this video out with, I'm going to agree with him on this one. The death rate as of today, and today being, what is it, July 7th, I think? Yeah, July 7th. As of today, that's exactly where we're at. The spike in deaths is not following the spike in cases, and hopefully that's a good sign for all of us. Hopefully, in the event that we can't get a vaccine right away, that hopefully we just are dealing with a virus that's become less deadly. I know I'd like to see that. I know my business has been back open and business has been good and people are not currently afraid, but I'm also in central New York. I'm 4 hours away from New York City, which is where the worst cases in the world were just a few months ago. But at least here, people are doing the right thing. I go into stores, everybody's wearing masks. I don't go into restaurants. I try to avoid it, but I do take out and everybody's wearing masks. I had to go to Target last night for something and everybody was wearing masks. So as long as we keep doing the right thing, these mortality rates will still continue to go down because the violency is down. It appears that we maybe are dealing with a less deadly strain than we started out with, and that would be wonderful for all of us. And maybe, just maybe, and I'm guilty of this too, we can stop politicizing it and just do the right thing. Luckily, we have more and more governors that are saying that masks should be mandatory. Joe Biden, running for president, says that masks should be mandatory. And maybe at some point we can get the president to say the same thing. Anyway, thank you for watching again tonight's episode of the Daily Octane. This is just my opinion on things. Again, I'm not an epidemiologist. I am not a disease expert. I am not a surgeon. I am not a preventive health medicine practitioner. I am just a massage therapist with a really loud voice and an opinion. But I hope you liked what I had to say. Give me a thumbs up here on YouTube if you found me there. On Facebook, make sure you like my Facebook page, The Daily Octane on Facebook, and then my page here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you don't already. Feel free to share this with anybody else that also may want to hear my opinion. I appreciate all of the activity I've been getting on the channel recently. I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you very much for watching The Daily Octane. I'll see you tomorrow.